Hey everybody, welcome back to Hell Brent for Leather. It's been a little bit since I've recorded. I had a bunch of stuff going on, and I've just not really had a whole lot of motivation. It was great having Casey on. A couple episodes I had him on. I will absolutely have him back on again. I need to get his mic situation figured out, because his audio is not great on his end. It's good enough to understand. I can certainly understand what he's saying, but I want better quality for this. I have it on my end, and I'd like my guests to have, somewhere close to what I've got, if at all possible. I recognize that every once in a while that is not going to be possible, but, that is, it's the name of the game. So, anyway, I'm Brent. I'm back for, what is this, episode 4, I believe. I was supposed to have, Sword Lord Nathan Block on for this episode, but some things came up, so we're gonna have to reschedule. But either way, it's been a little while. Let me kill that ringer there, unfortunately. It's been a little while since I recorded, probably 2 or 3 weeks at this point, so I like I said, I needed to get an episode out there and see what I can talk about and such. So man, big news over the last week. Unfortunately, we lost 3 greats. First of all, and this is one that I'll expound upon a good amount more in this episode, was the great Mike Howe of Metal Church. Just a wonderfully nice human being, a wonderfully talented musician, and just a hell of a guy. I'd only met him once, but he was wonderful to me. I've known people that have met him a number of other times, and he just, no one had anything bad to say about the man. Just a wonderful, wonderful man. The second one we lost, and they say they come in threes. I guess last week was no exception. We lost Joey Jordison of Slipknot. I've never been a Slipknot fan. They just weren't my thing. I went the other way with metal when Slipknot was coming around and such. But Joey was a hell of a drummer, and a really great talent lost there. If you've never seen, I think you can watch it. I know you can listen to it, but I think it's a video bootleg. There was a Metallica show on a festival that Slipknot was also on. I don't think it was Wacken, but I do think it was something fairly high profile. And Lars wound up getting food poisoning or sick or something, and he was not able to perform that night. And rather than cancel the show, they asked around backstage as to who could do their set, and Joey was picked to do it, and apparently just fucking killed it. I've only seen a couple of songs from it, and he did a really good job. Now, drumming for Metallica isn't going to be the hardest thing on the planet. I mean, there are exceptions. I mean, Dyer's Eve and such, but just overall, Lars is not known as a super powerhouse drummer. He's super powerhouse personality. People know him. He founding member of the biggest metal band of all time. But just in terms of just sheer skill, he's no Gene Hoglan. He's no Richard Christie. He's no Joey Jordison. Someone like that. So, that was pretty cool that he stepped in and filled in for them. And for any of you who are fans of Slipknot or Murder Dolls or anything else that Joey was involved in, I feel for you. That really fucking sucks, because I'm feeling that way about Mike Howe for sure. And then finally, fucking the great Dusty Hill from ZZ Top. I haven't been a huge ZZ Top fan for several years. They're not really in my normal rotation. Every once in a while I'll get a wild hair to listen to something, but I did grow up with ZZ Top very strongly in my life, and my dad, Jeff, got me into them as they were one of his favorite bands. And there's nothing more that can be said about ZZ Top. I mean, if you go back, there was an interview one time where Jimi Hendrix was asked who his favorite guitar player was, and without skipping a beat, he said Billy Gibbons. You don't really get much higher praise than that. The guitar player that many consider to be the greatest rock guitarist of all time then turns around and says that Billy Gibbons is his favorite guitar player. Fucking forget about it. And And then, the great irony in Frank Beard being the only member of the band that doesn't have a beard. That's always cracked me up. But Dusty will absolutely be missed. Apparently, he gave permission to ZZ Top to continue on in his stead, because he wasn't going home to die. He was going home to try to get his hip and shoulder looked at and such, because he was having some problems with it, and he was going to try to work through that and maybe get back out on the road towards the end of September. But in his stead, in leaving, he told Billy that he wanted their guitar tech / bass tech to jump out there and fill in his shoes for him, because he's been with the band for 30 years and knows all the songs and just the way it goes. And it's kind of like the Metallica, the Black Album tour, playing in Montreal in 90 or 91, I don't remember the year, when Guns N' Roses was on the, I want to say Use Your Illusion tour. I don't think it was Appetite. But they were opening for Metallica in Montreal, and then the famous flashpot goes off, burns the hell out of James, and Guns N' Roses, well, not Guns N' Roses, Axl refused to come back out because he didn't want to be seen as being relegated to have to cover for Metallica, blah, 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 even though Guns N' Roses was opening for Metallica. And it caused a huge riot. They finally came on, but it didn't satiate the crowd, and a huge riot happened, and so on and so forth. But the ensuing chaos from that, James was burned. I know it was at least 2nd-degree burns. I want to say 3rd-degree burns on a substantial part of his body, and he was out for a while, where he just couldn't play guitar. So when they were performing again and such, James sat on a stool or stood and sang, and their guitar tech came out and played his parts and such from what I remember. I'm not going by any notes or anything. That's just something I remember reading, so I hope I'm right on that. But yeah, so Dusty's gone, so now there were 2 in ZZ Top, but his tech, Elwood, I can't recall what his last name is off the top of my head. I should have looked that up real quick. Is filling in for him, and apparently is going to fill in for him for the duration of this tour at the very minimum. And they were talking about potentially maybe bringing Dusty's hat, his stage hat, out on stage and throwing it on his mic stand and just kind of letting it be out there. It's sort of like when Halloween did their latest tour of the States that they did a few years ago with Kiski and Darius singing. They about halfway through the set, they stopped and had a drum solo on screen, and it was actually Ingo playing drums from a past live show that they did, and then Danny comes out and played drums to that. So it was kind of both of them doing a synchronous drum solo, and they did that in honor of Ingo because, famously Ingo died, as Casey and I talked about on the previous episode. So, I like little tributes and stuff like that. I hate that they have to happen because the person's no longer here. Because obviously they've meant a great deal to the members of the band as well as the audience, and it's just sad when you have to celebrate their life in the past tense. So, my heart goes out to them too, because fucking Dusty was the man. But, yeah, kind of back to Mike Howe. It's an excruciatingly sad situation. Everybody who knew him, by all estimation from anything that I've been able to see, said he was just a super giving human being. He'd give you the shirt off his back. He was always friendly, always willing to stop for a picture, a handshake, a talk, an autograph, anything like that. He was certainly like that with me when I met him. And I know several others that have met him that mirrored the same thoughts. But, just to hear that he just wasn't doing well and decided to take his own life, that's really fucking sad. I just don't really know what to say in that regard. My dad committing suicide. Today is the 3rd, so in exactly 2 weeks, it will have been, no, I'm sorry, that's my father's birthday. No, Jeff died, I don't remember the exact date. I know it was this month. I'll have to look on my calendar. I don't I don't recall off the top of my head. It kind of creeps up on me every year. The 9th, so next Monday. That'll be fun. Um, it will have been 19 years since he's been gone, and unfortunately that was a suicide. So I know what that's like. And apparently he left behind a wife and a couple of kids, so that really sucks too. But it sucks that he was in a situation where he thought that was the only way to go. I think this last year and a half has been hard for a lot of people, especially those in the service industry and the entertainment industry, because their entire lives were just completely shut down. I've been lucky in regards to I didn't lose any work, and in fact gained a lot of work as a result of it. So that's been nice for me, but at the same time, even having that the last year and a half has been excruciatingly hard for me at times. So just to have your entire identity and life just kind of, abruptly had the brakes put on it, and then have to sit and watch time go by, time's kind of standing still as you're getting older, and, not being able to go out and do oftentimes what you have to do in order to keep yourself sane. I mean, that comedians are mostly all fucking nuts. I know, because I'm friends with a few of them, and they get on stage and do what they do in order to keep their own demons in check and everything else. And I imagine it's that way for a number of musicians and such. I know it's that way for several that I know. I won't purport to say that every friend that I have that is in a band is completely and utterly nuts and has to chase that in order to keep from doing something horrible to themselves. But I do know that is a running thing in the entertainment industry. And so I just really feel bad that it got to that point for him. If the last year and a half hadn't happened and he would have been able to be out on the road doing what he loved, which you could clearly tell that he loved it. I mean, he's been back with the band since 2015, and just every time he saw him on stage, I only met him once, but I've had the honor of seeing him twice. He just his eyes were bright, big smile, just enjoying the hell out of himself on stage, and you could tell the guys were enjoying themselves too, and just to see that yanked out from under them, and just the terrible price that I think a lot of people are paying in regards to everything that happened. We count the death toll over the last year and everything else, but I think there's absolutely going to be an unknown and unquantified price that's paid for perhaps, definitely years, if not decades to come, in regards to just what the last 18 months and continuing on now has done to people and their well-being, their mental stability, their financial stability, and everything else. So I hate that it got that way for Mike. I blamed myself for a long time for Jeff not picking up the phone and calling me before he did what he did. And, I hope that there's not someone in his life that feels that way and carries that guilt, because I carried that guilt for a long time in mine, and I don't carry it anymore for the most part. Every once in a while I'll harken back to it and be like, man, was there something I could do? And, the answer I have to tell myself in order to stay sane is no, there's nothing I could have done. So I hope that those in his life do not carry on that same burden, because that burden fucking sucks. But yeah, I mean, kind of on to other things. Let's see what's going on. Judas Priest announced this fucking huge box set that they're putting out. I want to say in October, or it may have even been September. I don't recall, but it's like 42 CDs. It's everything they've ever done studio-wise, plus a bunch of live stuff and studio demos and other stuff from the quote-unquote vault that's coming out. And I mean, it's pricey. It's like $500, but for that much that you're getting, and you're getting autographed photos and everything else, I think that's not really a bad thing for Priest collectors. Is your run-of-the-mill guy gonna walk in off the street and buy that's not a huge Priest fan? Not unless he's just completely fucking convinced himself that this will get him into them head over shoulders. But or head over foot rather. But for the hardcore Priest collector, and just even the hardcore Priest fan, even if they don't collect everything the band's ever done, I don't think it's a bad value. Everything's remastered and all of that, so I may look into having to pick that up. Yeah, let's see what else. What else is going on? Trying to think. I'm bummed I fucking missed Primus. Primus was coming through, and then the pandemic happened, and they had to completely reschedule the tour. And when they rescheduled the tour, they couldn't make 3 dates work, and Minneapolis being one of them. They were going to do the entirety of Rush's Farewell to Kings, which is a great record. It's not my favorite Rush record, but it is one of their better ones in my opinion. So it would have been really cool to see Rush do, or to see Primus do that. Excuse me a moment. Enjoying a nice dragon's milk. But it would have been fucking killer to see Primus do that, because Primus is my guilty pleasure band. They're not metal. Well, one could argue that they have metal elements at times, but on the whole, they're not a metal band. They're a jam band who's heavy as fuck. But Antipop is one of my favorite records ever, and I've seen Primus live now. Oh, how many times have I seen Primus? I want to say I've seen Primus twice. May only be once that I've seen them, now that I think about it. But I've seen Les a couple of times, and just a killer fucking live band, a killer studio band, everything else. So I'm really bummed I didn't get to see them. And let's see, what else was coming? Priest is coming in towards the end of September. They were going to Milwaukee, and my buddy Justin and I were going to drive out there, but then we found out that they added a Minneapolis date to the tour, so absolutely going to that. Sold our tickets for we didn't sell them, we got a refund for our tickets for Milwaukee, and decided to just go whole hog and go here, and got the best seats we could and everything else, because, I mean, this is 50 years, and they're my favorite band. Every time I see Priest, I assume it's the last time I'm going to see them. I assume that they're going to spontaneously retire, or something's going to happen, or maybe the next tour they won't come anywhere close to me where I'll be able to go, or any number of other things, And I just, I try to make every time I see them special. And so if this is the last time that I get to see them, I'll do it with a smile on my face, just as I've done the previous, I want to say I've seen Priest now 6, 7 times, maybe 8. Fuck, I don't remember how many times. All right, so let's see. Let's try to count them out. I saw them in Atlanta with Queensryche when Rob came back. That was the United tour. I saw them at where's the next place I saw them? I want to say maybe Taste of Minnesota was the next place when they did the 40th anniversary. No, that wasn't. So the next place I saw them would have been at the Myth, which is a 3,500 person nightclub in St. Paul, which was just an incredible experience to be able to see that band in an environment such as that. And I was one person away from the stage. The only person that was in front of me was literally a dwarf who was holding up a sign that said, "I'm the Judas Priest midget." And he kept headbanging, and fucking the back of his head was hitting me in the dick. And I was like, dude, come on. But I did what I could to protect him, because, just people rushing the stage and pushing up against the stage and such. The guardrail was, face level with him. I didn't want him to face plant into it or anything like that. But that was the second time I saw him, and then I saw them in, wherever the fuck that is, Tinley Park, just south of Chicago, if I remember correctly. That was on the Masters of Metal tour, whatever the name of that tour was. It was, I want to say, definitely Motorhead. It was Motorhead, Testament, Judas Priest, and Heaven and Hell. And that was the second time that I got to see Heaven and Hell with Ronnie, obviously. The first time being at the Target Center with Megadeth and Machine Head opening a few years prior to that. But I got to see them there, so that's 3. And then after that, I saw them where? I saw them in Hammond, Indiana, at the Horseshoe Casino. That'd be 4. I have seen them in Green Bay. That would be 5. I saw them. Have I ever seen them here other than at the Myth and at Taste of Minnesota? No. So that's 5. I saw them. I know I've seen them since Green Bay. I just can't recall where. Oh, no. I saw them at Treasure Island, which is a casino just south of the cities. And that's right, it was during a tornado. Because they were supposed to play outside. It was them and who else? It was them and Black Star Riders and maybe Thin Lizzy. I can't no, it wasn't Thin Lizzy. It was Black Star Riders and oh man, I can't recall who the other band was that opened for them, but they had to move it inside, and it was fucking terrible because they weren't set up for it. It wasn't the band's fault. It wasn't the crew's fault. It was the venue's fault, and that was the day that I said I'd never go back down there to see a show again. And then I saw them at... I want to say I saw them at the Excel, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't recall. So yeah, I want to say this is 8 that I've seen them. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing them. And like I said, if it's the last time I get to see them, it's the last time I get to see them. I'm a massive Priest fan. Priest has never done anything wrong in my eyes. They've done songs I didn't like, but on the whole, I mean, I like Turbo. I do. I don't love it, but I like it. I love Ram It Down. There are some songs on it that are terrible. You know, Johnny Be Good. God damn it, I hate that song. But, you know, for every Johnny Be Good on that record, there's a Blood Red Skies. Painkiller is my favorite record ever. And then I'm also a huge Ripper Owens era Judas Priest apologist. I fucking love Jugulator and Demolition. Those records do not get the due that they should be given. And I would put those records above the Blaze Bayley Maiden records because whereas I love Jugulator and I really like Demolition, I love the X Factor and can't stand Virtual 11. So I can't do those comparisons without saying Priest comes out on top in my eyes. I think Priest, and I was having this debate with someone the other day actually. Objectively, I think Maiden is probably the better band because when Maiden was great, they were phenomenal. And when Priest was great, they were phenomenal. But Maiden has more great than Priest, but Priest has far more good than Maiden. Because, I mean, like Fear of the Dark and shit like that, they're just not good records. Great songs on the record, but just as a whole, okay, whatever. Fear the Dark, ooh. Virtual 11, And then, I don't really count the Paul stuff as Maiden stuff. It's fucking amazing. I love the first two Maiden records, but they're different. Maiden hadn't found their sound yet, just like Judas Priest hadn't found their sound yet with Rock-A-Rolla. They found a decent part of their sound with Sad Wings of Destiny, but they hadn't really found their sound until Sin After Sin and Stained Class is when they really started to get there, and obviously Killing Machine / Hellbent for Leather. But Maiden found their sound by Number the Beast. I mean, they found an okay amount of it on Killers, but yeah, fucking Number the Beast is just a perfect record. But for Maiden, when you've got quote unquote perfect records, you've got Number the Beast, you've got Peace of Mind, you've got fucking hell, how did Somewhere in Time is damn near perfect, Power Slave is perfect, Seventh Son is perfect, and then just a massive drop-off for a few albums, whereas Priest didn't have that. You had Sin After Sin, which was fucking great. You have Hellbent for Leather, fucking great. Stained Class, fucking great. Scream for Vengeance, I think it's overrated in regards to where it sits now. At the time, fuck no, it wasn't overrated. It was groundbreaking. But for now, it's my least favorite out of those four, probably. And then Defenders of the Faith, just a massively great record. And then you've got Turbo, their most commercially successful record, I think, if I remember correctly. But objectively, it wasn't a great record. It's got some good songs on it. It's got a couple great songs on it. But on the whole, okay, whatever. Ram It Down, same thing. Ram It Down has I think Ram It Down's got 4 great songs on it. And then everything else is kind of filler. And then Painkiller being amazing. But, so you go after Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, you then get, I gotta get my timing right on this. So you got Number of the Beast, you got Peace of Mind, because that's when Nico came in. Then you've got Power Slave, then you've got Seventh Son. After Seventh Son, I believe you have No Prayer for the Dying. And then I believe you have Fear of the Dark. I may have those mixed up. But No Prayer for the Dying and Fear of the Dark, they're okay. They're not great records by any stretch. I know there are some people that would disagree with me on that. Jan would be one of them, my buddy, who is also the guitar player of the former band Avian and former band Echo Terra. He would absolutely disagree with me on that because he's a Maiden apologist. Everything Maiden's ever put out has been fucking brilliant. I don't feel that way. But, again, like I said, the strong stuff that Maiden put out blows most of the strong stuff that Priest put out away. So then you get to X Factor, which I love. I absolutely love it. Virtual 11 has one great song on it. No, I take that back. 2 great songs. I forgot about Future Real. And then you've got, Bruce coming back and those records. I absolutely fucking love Brave New World. I for the longest time, it was my favorite Maiden record. And then Dance of Death is another great record, but it's also a vast departure from where they were when Bruce left. It's almost a different band. And then after Dance of Death, you've got Matter of Life and Death, which I hated when I first listened to it. Now I really, really like that record a lot. Then you've got Final Frontier, which was another record that I didn't care for when it came out, and I made myself listen to it because I realized that the same thing had happened with A Matter of Life and Death, and excuse me. And now I really, really enjoy that record. And then you move on to Book of Souls, which I liked the moment it came out. Thought it was a really solid record. Some really great songs on it. A couple of songs on it that are just okay, but some really, really great songs on it. And then now Senjutsu, which is coming out in September, I think, either September or October. Which, of course, I pre-ordered immediately because fucking new Maiden, hell yeah. But I'll say the new song that they debuted, the Writing on the Wall or Written on the Wall, I can't recall which one it is. Written on the Wall is an Iced Earth song, so I can't remember if that's also the name of the Maiden song. But, I didn't love it. I didn't. I thought the video was great. I just didn't love the song. But, to be fair, most of the first singles that they release off of the record wind up being among my least favorite songs on the record. So I'm really hoping that remains the case with this and that this album rules, because it does have one of my favorite album covers ever from Maiden on it. It doesn't quite harken back to, say, Power Slave or something like that, but god damn, in terms of the new era of Maiden coming back, I put it up there with the Brave New World cover, because the Dance of Death cover, as much as I love that record, that cover fucking sucks. And then Matter of Life and Death, that's a cool cover, I like it. Not the best cover ever, but I do dig it. Final Frontier had a fucking weird cover. That was a weird Eddie. I don't dislike it, it's just fucking weird. Book of Souls, really detailed new Eddie, but okay, it's just a black cover with his face on it. And then Yeah, the new one though, I love samurai shit. I really truly do. I mean, Akira Kurosawa, the famous Japanese director who did a great number of old school samurai movies, starring Toshiro Mifune and Tatsuya Nakadai in the from the 50s, 60s, well, all the way up to both of their deaths. Well, I think Tatsuya's still alive actually. He may have died, but I know Toshiro Mifune died in the early 2000s. Those movies are among my favorites. I mean, movies you may have heard of would be Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Sanjuro, sort of Doom, anything like that. And for just a little bit of additional trivia, Yojimbo is the movie that the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly trilogy was based off of. Because it's basically a samurai western, and then he's the samurai with no name who kind of comes in and kind of orders the two factions in the town against each other while kind of working behind the scenes for both of them. The same thing with Clint Eastwood's character in that trilogy. And then there was a later movie from like 92 or 93, maybe 94. I don't recall the exact year it came out, with Bruce Willis, called Last Man Standing, which is, again, another retelling of that same story, but it takes place in, I want to say, 1920s Prohibition-era Las Vegas, and Bruce Willis plays a gangster who is putting two rival mob families against each other, and it's good. It's got a young Michael Imperioli in it, in between him being Spider in Goodfellas and being Christopher on The Sopranos, so that's kind of cool. And he actually plays Tatsuya Nakadai's character from Yojimbo. But yeah, so really looking forward to the new Maiden. I worship the ground Bruce Dickinson walks on. That dude is just, he's a goddamn Renaissance man. I mean, he is truly a man's man. He is a world-class level fencer. He's a pilot. He's one of the greatest vocalists to ever live. And just a cool guy. If you've not read his book, What Does This Button Do? It's very, very good. I was lucky enough to get a signed copy of that when it came out, and I fucking adore Bruce Dickinson. So I'm really glad he's back with the band, and I'm really glad that they're still going strong, and hopefully this doesn't wind up being their last record. But if it does, hey, we got a shit ton out of them for it to be. That's another thing that I hate about the last year and a half, is just, so many of my favorite musicians and bands are getting up there in years, and every month that goes by with them is precious. So to have a year and a half or 2 years taken out of the equation, where, thankfully there's a lot of emotion going around over the last couple of years, or a year and a half rather, due to, just any number of different scenarios for people, that I really do think that that's going to get a lot of creative juices going, and I think there's just going to be some full-on bangers to come out from many of these bands that's just going to blow people away, hopefully. I don't have any kind of inside information to confirm that, but usually when strife and things are happening, really creative things can come from that. So even if that can just be a small silver lining in relation to everything, we're not getting the last year and a half back, so we might as well take from that what positives we can, while we can. So I'm hoping that some new releases come out that are just great. And I mean, I'm looking at you, Maiden. I'm looking at you, Priest, and stuff like that. So yeah. Let's see. I don't know what else I want to talk about. There's plenty to talk about. I'm just, like I said, I kind of came into this and didn't really have any thoughts. I wanted to make myself get on here while I was feeling semi-inspired to do it. And, I don't want to go weeks without putting out an episode. They say that most episodes don't get past episode number 3, or most podcasts don't get past episode 3 or 4. And, the last one I did was episode 3, so I need to get past that, and because I'm enjoying doing this, even if ton of people aren't listening yet, I'm having fun with it, and I know I've been reached out to by a few people that I know that have enjoyed listening to it thus far. So that's always good. I appreciate this, or I appreciate that rather. I started doing this for myself. As I kind of said in the first episode, I need an outlet. I don't play music. I thoroughly enjoy it, but I don't play it, and I need some sort of a creative outlet that's just not dick and fart jokes all the time like the other podcast is. So I wanted something a little more mature and something a little more delving into various topics that I can go into long form, that I don't have to make sure that my co-host is interested in or anything like that, because I can just bring people on to talk about various things as I want, and talk about anything that I want, which, not to say I can't do it on the other one, but, there comes a time too where I may want to do something different one week than we may have planned out. So that's why I have this. So let's see. What else? What have I been listening to? I've been mostly listening to a lot of podcasts. I listen to so many fucking podcasts that I can't keep up with everything that I'm listening to. But in regards to music, been listening to a lot of Metal Church over the last week. I think that should be a given. Metal Church has been one of my kind of low-key favorite bands for a long, long time. I mean, Casey had me hear, I want to say the first record I heard was the self-titled. I'm almost positive that's the case. Because I remember the cover of Highway Star from Deep Purple, and I really liked Deep Purple. And just listening to that and just being blown away by, Metal Church and Beyond the Black, especially that fucking opening riff in Beyond the Black. It just, oh my god, that blew me away when I didn't know any better, and now I do know better, and it still blows me away. So I just really love that band, and it was immensely sad when David Wayne died, and then now, with Mike Howe gone, I don't know what Metal Church does now. I mean, they point blank said that if Mike didn't come back to the band in 2015, they were going to hang it up. They just weren't feeling inspired anymore. And I really hope that if they don't keep it going, that they don't keep it going for the right reasons. If they're not feeling inspired and they're just downtrodden because Mike died and everything else, then okay, hang it up. I don't want you to put out something that's substandard, that doesn't live up to the Metal Church name. Because, unfortunately, that has happened in their history. But, I mean, goddamn, if there's any way that you can get someone that could even kind of step into the same shoes as Mike and David and just bring an air of motivation and love for the music back to the band in the wake of him dying, I'm all for it. Like, Will and I talked about it on the Bastard Cast. Him and I differ on Sanctuary carrying on without Worrell. I'm personally okay with it, just because of the fact that the guy that they got, Joseph, he's a Nevermore and Sanctuary fan. He kind of knew Worrell, and it looked up to Worrell. I mean, he was a huge fan of Worrell. And he's got the right attitude for it. He's got his own band as well, so he's not chasing clout by joining this band and trying to be something that he's not. Witherfall is on its way upwards and onwards. And I really do think that he can fill those shoes to the degree that someone who is not Worrell Dane can fill those shoes. Is someone ever going to step into the same shoes as Worrell and pull off everything that Worrell was able to do, not only vocally, but just his mesmerizing the audience and everything else? Fuck no. That's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. But can someone step in to Worrell's spot on the stage, do the songs justice, allow the band to keep going as a means of income, and not do it in such a way that it's a farce where everybody's going to be like, what the fuck is going on? Like so many other bands in the past who have lost a singer or something like that, where they just go out as a nostalgia act and it doesn't matter anymore. You know, I mean, Sanctuary is already talking about releasing a new record with Joseph, and I I I can see it happening, and I can see it working. You know, if I had my way, would I want Worrell to be back from the dead and front Sanctuary and Nevermore for that matter? You're goddamn right I would. Worrell was my friend. I miss him. He was a good fucking guy. He had his demons, but he was a good dude who treated his friends well and, you know, just was a hell of a talent. And he just couldn't get away from his own demons. And that kind of caused his downfall at the end that led to his event. And it fucking sucks, you know. But we live in the now. We can't live in the past. And we don't have Worrell. So what do? Do we have Sanctuary say, well, fuck this. We're never doing anything again. Goodbye, legacy. Or do we have someone step in who respected Worrell, who was a fan of Worrell, who respects the songs, who respects the process, and says, hey, let me do this. Let me pay as much homage and respect to Worrell as I can while putting my own spin on it as to not be a carbon copy. I think we can do that, and I think we can appreciate it. And I really do hope that that happens. And, you know, while it's apropos...
This is Worldane. You're listening to Hell Brent for Leather.
He recorded that for me several years ago, and I found that when I was going through stuff, and I definitely wanted to keep that and use that. So, Worrell, I miss you, man. You were a fucking good guy, and you're sorely missed. But so let's see. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Metal Church. All three records that Mike was on pre-reunion, and then the two he was on as they got back together, which both of those fucking records are great. 11 and Damned If You Do are fucking awesome records. I was really, really surprised that they came out of the gate that strong because, I mean, you know, Ronnie was a nice enough guy the few times that I met him and such, but just the band, they were just kind of downtrodden and didn't really seem inspired and motivated and all of that. And the couple albums they put out with Ronnie, or maybe even a few, I don't remember how many at this point, Generation Nothing and I think there's one or two others that they put out. They're just, I hate to say it, they're not good records. And then when Mike came back, they blew the fucking doors off with 11. And just a great record. And then I was like, okay, well, that was a fluke. The next one's not going to be good. And then Damned If You Do came out. And it was almost just as good, if not just as good. And then they did a little compilation deal called From the Vault, where they put a bunch of stuff out that hadn't really been released before. And they put out a new recording of... Oh, let's see. What was the song? Oh, yeah. They re-recorded Conductor off of Hanging in the Balance, which is my personal favorite Mike Howe Metal Church record. But then they did some fucking covers, too. They did Green Eyed Lady, which I don't know. And Black Betty, obviously. Oh, Black Betty. Yeah. And then just some live stuff and a couple other bonus things from the vault and some B-sides and stuff like that. So that was a cool little deal that they put out. And then man, what else have I been listening to? There's a little known band that, you know, hardcore fans of him and of European power metal will probably know it. But so Ralph Sheepers from Primal Fear, a little bit of his history. He I'm not going to get his complete history right because I don't know everything he ever did. But obviously, like, the first big band that he was in that got him some clout was Gamma Ray. He sang on the first three Gamma Ray records, Heading for Tomorrow, Sigh No More, and Insanity and Genius. And so he did that, and then he wound up leaving Gamma Ray and actually auditioned for Judas Priest. And apparently, to hear several people tell it, and I believe I've had this conversation with Ralph, because I've met him a number of times, and I can't remember if I've had this conversation with him or not, because I've never formally interviewed him, but I've talked to him just on the bus and stuff like that, because he would do shows here, and Nathan being the promoter for that, you know, we'd get to hang out with him and such, and we took him to the airport one time and all that. So, But he was one of the quote-unquote finalists for being Rob's replacement in Priest. And my understanding is it came down between him and Ripper. And Ripper obviously wound up getting the gig, which I'm eternally grateful for, because Ripper wasn't a carbon copy of Rob. He could do Rob's stuff justice, but he wasn't a carbon copy. Whereas Ralph is a carbon copy of Rob. And that's not a bad thing, because Ralph can make it different enough to put his own spin on it. But there are absolutely times I hear Ralph sing and I'm like, fuck, that's Rob. So I'm really glad, another bald guy fronting Priest. It's like, okay. So I am glad that they picked Ripper, because Ripper was more diverse and was able to do more things with them. And I think that they would have not been able to put out Jugulator or Demolition with Ralph singing. I don't hear that happening. And I know that Ripper helped write some of Demolition. I don't know how much of Jugulator he helped write. I think most of Jugulator was already written when he got into the band. Jugulator just kind of being a natural progression over the years from where Painkiller left off. But I don't think Ralph could have pulled off Jugulator the way that Ripper did. So I'm glad Ripper got the gig. But so when that kind of fell through, he met up with Matt Sinner from Sinner and started Primal Fear, rather. And, has been known, obviously, for his work with Primal Fear, as well as other stuff that he's guested on over the years and stuff like that. Avantasia being one, and just a number of other projects that he's lent his self to. But one thing that he did that was just an amazing record, one of my favorite records that he ever did, and I honestly might like it more than almost every Primal Fear record, and that's saying something, because I really like early Primal Fear. I like later Primal Fear too, but early Primal Fear is absolutely amazing. For what it is, just standard run-of-the-mill German power metal, but it's got fucking balls. But he was in a band called Tyran Pace, Tyran Pace, and put out a record called Watching You, that there are 3 or 4 times a year I'll throw that record on and I'll listen to it 2, 3, 4 times in a row straight through. Saints of Rock being a great song on there, Cry Out, Criminal, just a absolutely great record that came out in 1986. So it predates his time in Gamma Ray, because Kai was still in Halloween at that time, very strongly still in Halloween, rather, because I think Judas came out in 85. No, I'm sorry. Judas came out in 84, 85, and then Walls of Jericho, I think, came out in 86, if I remember correctly, because I think Keeper 1 came out in like 88, maybe. Keeper 2 came out in like 89 or 90, and then Kai fucking skedaddled, hence the song I Want Out. And then they did fucking Pink Bubbles Go Ape and Chameleon, and then fucking Kiski got out, and then they brought in Darius and did Master of the Rings. But yeah, so that record is just really fucking good. If you can find it, I was lucky enough to find a couple copies of it on vinyl years ago on eBay, and bought them and kept one for myself and gave one to my buddy Nathan. Just a great fucking record. And what else was I listening to? Hell on Wheels is another thing that he did. It was just a 3-song, I think. Oh no, 4-song deal that he sang on, at least. The project was called FBI, and it was initials for the guitar player. And that's a cool little EP that got put out that Ralph was on as well. And I want to say that was after Tyran Pace, if I remember correctly, but I can't remember exactly when that came out. I know Tyran Pace was 86. But then, let's see, what else was I listening to? Gravedigger. Fucking Gravedigger. I love Gravedigger. I got to see them open for Blind Guardian, I want to say 3 years ago. And I fucking love Gravedigger. The two that I was listening to were Excalibur, which was my first dive into Gravedigger. That was kind of my first love from the band. And then Tunes of War, because Rebellion, the Clans of Marching On, is my favorite Gravedigger song by far. Hell, Human Remains. I love Hell. God bless you, Andy Sneap. So this is how much of a fucking badass Andy Sneap is. I'm glad I stumbled across this, because, yeah, I fucking love Andy Sneap. So, Andy Sneap learns how to play guitar from the guitar player for Hell way back in the day. Now, Hell was a NWO BHM band that never released anything other than a couple of demos around the early to mid 1980s in Britain. And then their lead singer / guitar player, whose name escapes me right off the moment. Like I said, I don't take a lot of notes for this. I just kind of riff on things, whatever comes to mind that I feel inspired by. So I'm not eternally prepared in regards to names and such, other than the ones that I just naturally remember. But so the lead guitar player / singer taught Andy Sneap how to play guitar back in the day, apparently. And then he wound up, unfortunately, committing suicide in, I want to say, like 87 or 88. Like, late in the 80s. And they never put out anything. They had a demo EP type deal called Save Us From Those That'll Save Us. Or Save Us From Those Who Would Save Us, rather. Save Us From Those. Yeah, Save Us From Those Who Would Save Us. And I forget the other... I want to say they put out like 4 songs over 2 little demo EPs, if I remember correctly. I know Save Us From Those Who Would Save Us was one of them, because I've looked on Discogs for a copy of that, and I can get one, but it's going to cost me several $100s, and I'm just not ready to take that leap on that yet. But, so apparently he taught Andy Sneap how to play guitar, then he died, and Hell just kind of folded and didn't do anything anymore. They're just like, well, fuck, kind of the identity of our band is gone. So they hung it up. Andy goes on to play guitar in the British thrash Sabbath, not the Japanese Sabbath, Sabbat, and put out some killer fucking records with Sabbath. I mean, Sabbath is just top-notch British thrash. And so that goes on, and then he gets into producing more than playing guitar for Sabbath and such. And he goes on to produce. He did let's see. I want to say that he did the second time around on Nevermore's Enemies of Reality. Let me double check that before I talk into my ass. Enemies of Reality, Andy Sneap. Let's see if I'm right about that. I know, alright, Enemies of Reality. Yeah, okay. So it was initially produced by Kelly Gray, who, there's a number of people who affectionately and not so affectionately refer to as Oven Mitts, because he plays guitar like he's wearing fucking oven mitts. You're welcome, Danae, if you're listening to this. And he was guitar player for Queensryche and some other stuff, and just not a very impressive presence in regards to his guitar playing or his production quality. And so that came out in 2003. It came out kind of mixed reviews, and the band was like, fuck it, we're getting Andy to do it. And Andy is a producer extraordinaire. I love Andy's production. I was a fan of Andy's production before I knew he was guitar player for Sabbath. And so he goes on to do a bunch of stuff. He goes on to produce that, as well as a bunch of other random stuff. He produced Accept's kind of crawl back into the forefront with Mark being in the band, taking over for Udo. I think he's done every Accept record to date since Mark joined the band. And that's what floored me. I was like, fuck yeah, Andy, you are the fucking man. Because that Blood of the Nations record is just fantastic. And it just completely floored me. Accept was fucking back. And I got to see them on that tour, and it blew my fucking mind. That, to this day, that was the only time I ever got to see Accept. So, that happens, and then I hear rumblings about this NWO BHM band that was kind of legendary that I'd never really heard anything from, called Hell. And I hear that Andy is going to be producing their debut record that's coming out fucking 30 years after they formed, or whatever it was, 25 years after they formed, or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck? This band formed 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and they're just now putting out their first record. And then I went back and I kind of did some research, and I found out who Andy was in relation to them, and who that band was. And I'm like, well, fuck, that's fucking cool. He's kind of bringing them back and helping them reestablish themselves and get music out there that he feels very strongly about. And then I find out that he not only is going to be producing it, but he's also going to be playing guitar on it. And I'm like, well, that's fucking cool. You know, the guy who taught him, who, you know, was the front man for this band, who died, you know, Andy's kind of paying him back by saying, hey, you know, you're dead, but your legacy's going to live on. We're going to put this fucking record out. And then they get the guy who had died. They got his cousin, who was like a British stage play actor. And I can't recall his name off the top of my head either. See his face very clearly. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head. But apparently he was his cousin. And so they get him in the band. And he's very, very animated, both vocally and, you know, just being on stage. I mean, if you ever see any of their stuff live when they're playing, especially like Wacken and stuff like that, I mean, it's this big, not super elaborate stage show, but he's acting like it is, because like I said, he's a British stage play actor, and just, you know, out there with the crown of thorns on, and, you know, just a great voice too. He really projects and inflects well. And so they put out Human Remains, which is just a brutal fucking record for what it is. And I'm sitting there going, Jesus Christ, I've not had an NWO BHM record hit me like this since fucking, you know, I'll argue to my dying day that High and Dry from Def Leppard is NWO BHM, and I vastly prefer that record to On Through the Night. On Through the Night's good, but High and Dry is where it's at. But, you know, High and Dry and especially Lightning to the Nations by Diamond Head, those are two Desert Island records for me. And so to have another record in that vein come out and just blow me away as Human Remains did. I mean, Human Remains came out, let's see, when did it come out, if it'll tell me here, 2011. So it comes out in 2011, and I heard it, and I just was like, holy fuck, this is amazing. And then they were going to play like a New Year's Eve show in New York. And I almost went to New York just to see that show. I wound up not being able to make it work, but I almost went. That's how much that record blew me away. And then a few years later, maybe 2013, 2014, they came out with Curse and Chapter, which is not quite as good as Human Remains, but it's really fucking good. And unfortunately, that's all they've put out since then, but I think that's because Andy's just been so busy, because back to what we were talking about towards the beginning of the podcast, Andy got approached by Judas Priest to do production work for Firepower. And so he does Firepower, and then it gets announced that Glenn has Parkinson's, and he's not going to be able to go on tour with them. And they were like, well, we have to get a replacement, blah, blah, blah. He'll come out on tour, but he's not going to be able to play every night. You know, and the nights that he does play, he might only be able to do a few songs, whatever. But we have to have a regular that can get up there and play his parts for when he's not feeling it. And they asked Andy. And I couldn't have been prouder. There were people going, oh, fuck that, man. He's not Glenn Tipton. Boo, boo, boo. Well, no one's Glenn Tipton. And considering that you guys won't let KK come back to the band, you gotta have someone else. So Andy it was. And Andy's worked his ass off for years. He's a wonderful guitar player, a wonderful producer. And so the fact that he got to get out there and get in front of everybody, you know, the moment that the curtain opened and I see him, I was just floored. I love Andy Sneap. And so, you know, he puts out but he produced Firepower, which he really pushed the band in the direction of where he thought they should go in regards to his love for classic Priest and such. And Firepower is the best record the Priest has put out since Rob's been back to the band. I don't think that that's even kind of in contention. It's a killer record from start to finish. I think it's the best Priest record since Jugulator. And so I'm really happy that Andy's in that position. And, he's essentially a full-time member of the band now. I don't know if he's helping to write, but, he's going back out on this tour with them, and he's producing the follow-up and everything else. So Andy's a very busy guy, and so that's probably why Hell hasn't been able to put out anything else. I don't think that Hell is the same Hell, because I clicked on my iTunes just out of curiosity to see what that is, and yeah, that's most certainly not the same Hell. Yeah, I have no fucking idea what that is. Roadburn Records, yeah, that's definitely not Hell. So I'll have to look into that and see what's going on with that, because yeah, that's certainly not the same band, so I'll have to do some research on that. Oh well. But yeah, as I start to wind things down here, just stay patient with me. Like I said, I haven't felt super motivated, and I've also been trying to line up guests. I was supposed to do this last Thursday night, but Nathan couldn't do it, and then he had an emergency last night where he couldn't do it, so that held it off for another night. So, but I'm gonna try to keep this to weekly, barring something happening, and I have to skip a week every now and then or something. But I'm going to try to keep this weekly. I just got to push myself to stay motivated with it and such. And, by all means, if you have any ideas, things you want me to talk about that I might be interested in or anything like that, hit me up on Instagram. That's my primary spot. You'll find me. I'm on Instagram as Brent for Leather all together. Just bring it up and you'll see my name there. Kilty MacBastard. And yeah, let's talk if you've got some ideas. And if you're someone who should probably be on this show, let me know, because I got a bunch of friends in the industry that I will be having on eventually. I want to get Bill Hudson on. I want to get Sean Peck on. I'm going to try to get Jim Shepard on if I can get in contact with him. I've been trying, but not really able to do it. Maybe have Joseph Michael on from Witherfall, so on and so forth. So until next time, this has been Brent for Leather, and I am out.